Hello and welcome back to episode 24, or is it 23? I have no idea. I wasn't here last week and I didn't listen to the podcast of Heroic Stats and Any Heroics podcast. My name is Stephen, and I am, of course, the captain of Any Heroics and therefore the executive chairman, the only YouTube channel and GBHL team where we elect our captains based on the number of TVs they own. I don't have a TV license though, so come at me, HMRC or whoever. I am, as always, joined by the intern, John Partridge, and Chitter Chitter
Hello.
Farmer, Chitter Chitter, Mr. David Farmer.
It's me.
It's a you, a Waluigi. That'll be relevant later. If you're new here, I don't know why you would be new here because like this far into a podcast is a very weird place to start. We talk about the events of the world of SBG, Middle Earth SBG specifically, that is. International events, UK events, events in Europe, all over the place, as well as all things hobby related when they come up. Obviously, we've had a bit of a dry spell recently. And just a general hobby chat. But first of all, I have to come up with a creative excuse for why I haven't been doing any hobbying. John, what have you been up to this week?
I've been working on a secret project, which is actually a gift for somebody on this podcast.
Is it
What
me?
could it be?
Is it me because I'm turning 30 in September?
Who knows? Who knows?
Some of us are turning 30 in July.
Get wrecked, scrub.
Yeah, well,
Dave, what have you
guys are
been
so
up to
old.
hobby-wise?
what have I been up to hobby-wise? I've been painting ranges. No, I haven't. I've been, well, actually, events of this weekend inspired me to get out a force that I've not thought about painting for a long time. And I won't claim to have put any paint on them yet, but I am looking at them and thinking about how I should do that. So,
Dave and
yeah.
I had an interesting exchange last weekend where about 9:30 on a Thursday evening, I stumbled out of my house with a box and handed it to him underneath the streetlights. And he then had a really good Saturday because of the mysterious package I gave him.
The street lights being the sun because it was still light.
Yeah, because it was still light outside because Northern Hemisphere, baby. Don't be in Australia.
It's a rubbish place to be.
I was actually asked if I'd like to do some hobbying by my girlfriend who really wants to do some painting, and I've been putting it off. So, like everyone in my life wants me to do some hobbying. Maybe this week,
Except for you.
not this week.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing the thing I always do when I'm trying to get started, which is get everything sprayed and like base coated, and then like putting them on my desk next to where I work and being like, you could paint these anytime. And I'm looking at them like, yeah, I could. Whoa.
Let's have a go on you. Nice, yeah.
Let's have a go.
Of course, this is the point where we need to move on to the shilling section of the podcast. We are, of course, affiliated with the wonderful, if my mouse is going to work, Seventh City Collectibles. Go check them out in Nottingham online on their website. There will be a link in the description. You can, of course, get all your favorite gaming systems there, your card games, your tabletop games, your dice games, your imaginary games, board games, whatnot. They also sell secondhand goods and buy your secondhand models, which is an absolutely wonderful facility. They take all the hassle of selling your stuff on eBay or Facebook Marketplace or whatever to shady strangers, and they do it for you. They essentially give you a percentage of the value of what they think your stuff is worth, and you can either take it as store credit or you can take it as real money. But why would you do that? Because the store credit, they give you slightly more, and then you can buy more wonderful hobby stuff. Go check them out. But anyway, back to what we're here to talk about. The
Enjoying the
events.
fact that my background seems to be censoring my beer brand somewhat.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
Speaking of beer brands, we're also
Embarrassing.
sponsored by Impossible Brew, alcohol-free beer. Use my affiliate
Like
code
that.
to give me £5 off my
Yep.
next order.
Also, shout out to all
It is
the
johnlikesimpassibrew.com.
all the interesting Belgian beers which I didn't get to talk about last week. I had two. One was cherry flavor and the other one was cherry flavor.
Stephen doesn't like beer.
the events of the weekend. We did, of course, have quite a few events last weekend. The first one I'm going to talk about, or we're going to talk about, is Entmoot Presents Tis a Gathering. And this was a very, very unique event. And just briefly, here's Harry Parkhill to have a little chat about the event.
What I wanted to achieve with Tis a Gathering is to make sure that hobby was front and centre once again. Too long has it been forced into the dark corner of the room or a corridor outside the main gaming room at lunchtime when people have maybe got half an hour to grab some food, have a break, go to the loo and then look at some miniatures. I wanted to make sure that everyone had time to luxuriate, to take photos, to have conversations with the people about how and why they did certain things with their miniature display. And I think I achieved this because people went above and beyond for this tournament. 30 players, 11 people nominated for Best Army, just going to show that their compatriots thought their armies were worthy of being the best in the room. And that says an awful lot to the power of hobbying and giving people time and space to display and to luxuriate in that element of our wonderful game.
Entmoot Presents to the Gathering was, of course, run by the wonderful Harry Parkhill of Entmoot Podcast. Big fan of his podcast. If you haven't checked it out, go check it out. He's a lovely, charismatic man who's also a radio DJ. So, like, if you think we lack charisma, his channel actually has it.
If you want to listen to something professional, that sounds good.
With good quality editing and mics. Yeah.
This is professional. How dare you?
Now,
this is the most professional thing I've ever been involved with.
This event that Harry ran is really different and really cool, and that's why I'm doing a special little segment of it, because we don't have any army lists, and I'll explain why in a little bit. So it's 600 points, 6 games of good versus evil. Now, I think one of the most important things about this event was that you come along with the right attitude, and that's basically what Harry wanted to get across. So every game will be good versus evil. Where possible, people would play fluffy matchups, so Riders of Theoden versus Army of Gothmog, etc. If you had a grudge against someone, you could ask for a grudge match at any point, and you just play them. Now, the scoring system is one of the best parts of this event. Is after each game, you tally up your VPs, so out of 12 as normal, and then you also give your opponent a most sporting score out of 12 and a best painted score out of 12. The winner of the event was the one who got the most points in total. So VPs in total, and then also your hobby and sportsmanship scores, which I think is really cool because there were loads of posts about the event. Loads of people saying they had a great time. There were loads of pictures of people, like, you know, all the hobbying stuff. There was a 5-minute speed painting competition as well, which was really cool. So yeah, I hope he runs it again next year because it looks like an absolutely fantastic time. Very similar to like the Seven Stones, apologies, type of tournament where it's all about
in Lincoln.
Pardon?
Was it in Lincoln?
Yes, it was in Lincoln. It was at the I want to say De Montfort University, the place where he hosts imps. And yeah, really cool event. All I saw was lovely things about it. Loads of enthusiasm, loads of people just having a great time, loving the hobby. And most sporting was Aidan Lummer. And best painted was James Griffin and Aidan Lummer. And first place was Aidan Lummer. Second place was Sean Sproul, and third place was Jack Darlington. Now, as I said before, we're not going to look at the lists because this was very much a hobby and enthusiasm event. What we are going to look at is the best painted, which were really cool. So first of all, we have what was the best miniature, which was actually James Griffin. So he had this lovely Elrond, which if you're not watching on YouTube, which you could do, you should watch on YouTube, indeed you can watch on Spotify.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, there's some beautiful cloak work.
I mean, that honestly, for me, the thing that's shone out to me is how good that non-metallic metals are.
Yeah, the highlighting.
To identify that was a non-metallic metal. Like even Louis Van Heck would be impressed with that. I feel like.
Yeah, it's really good
for him, but he likes non-metallic metal, and that is extremely good.
Also, just like the little detail of the rings on the log as well at the bottom, like just fantastic. He also, now this was the guy who won the best miniature award, did a display board, which is just absolutely incredible. This is a well, it's the Forest of Lothlorien. It's absolutely beautiful. So yeah, shout out, lovely work. And then we also had the best painted army. And again, this is just some absolutely fantastic work. It's a Defenders of Erebor theme with Dane, Thorin, 3 Stonehelm, and Prince Brand.
No,
Yeah.
Prince Bard.
Prince Bard.
Brand is,
I always forget
Brand
which
is the
one's
king.
which. Brand's the king, yes.
I need to learn how to do non-metallic metal. That's what
He
this is
also
showing
built
me.
this insane display board, which is just like absolutely amazing. We see a lot of it. It always tends to be the dwarven players who build these insane dwarf display boards, like the Battle of Azanal. We see a lot of.
Yeah.
But yeah, just absolutely beautiful work. So apologies for interrupting the results podcast to talk about this, but I just really wanted to gush about how cool this event was, and how everyone really got into the spirit of it. And yeah, shout out Harry. Please run it again. I'm terrible at painting and could barely even get close to winning in most sporting, but I'd still like to go. So moving on to some events
Vote at some point.
where we've got some lists. First of all, we had At the End of All Things, which was hosted up in Paisley, Scotland, with Fraser Gillespie and John, I'm going to butcher your name, McElcudale, which is J-Max Armies of Middle-earth. It was 401 points, which when I was running through the army lists, I genuinely was like, someone's cheated here. There's an additional shield. And I was about to obviously message and ban them from the GBH show. I didn't have to do that, fortunately. 7-game event over 2 days. Most sporting was Rabtastic Paint, and the best painted was Andrew Kerr. So yeah, I would say I always like seeing tournaments run by Fraser because he gets the results out immediately. They're all hosted on Longshanks, and he puts photos online, just like absolutely wonderful. Let's have a quick look at the best painted. Beornings. Now it is the Grimbeorn bear, which is the nicer bear.
I'm gonna say I see Grimbeorn and also Bjorn.
Yeah.
Each. I'm guessing he's just using the nicer bear miniature and Bjorn.
Yeah, I assume he's using. Well, to be fair, there is an argument for if it's a tournament of this size, if you've only got one bear, to use Grimbeorn instead, just because you're not limited by the charging thing. But I guess it's stylistic differences.
10 Bjornings is pretty hardcore.
Yeah.
Not easy to deal with.
This unfortunately, this is the only photo I have. I did have a little scour through the GBH on Facebook to try and find more, but yeah, this was all I had. So Andrew, get some more photos online of your stuff on Facebook, please. But moving on to the third place list, it's a Fell Beings of Mirkwood list by Marty Sanderson. I've been doing lots of talking. John, run me through this list.
So we've got 22 models, 401 points. Razgush, of course, leads the Legendary Legion with 5 orcs with shield, 5 orcs with shield and spear, 1 orc with a banner, and then her queen, her ship herself, the Spider Queen, leading 4 trackers, 1 bat swarm, 3 orcs with shield, and 1 fell warg.
There is actually a slight difference to how the list really was, which is that 2 of the trackers were in Razgush's warband, but for some reason, Tabletop Admiral wouldn't let me put them in Razgush's warband. But yeah.
So Razgush can't lead trackers in his profile, so that may have been not legal in that regard. Because Razgush has a special rule which declares he can only lead orcs, warg riders, and spiders and bats. He can't lead anything else. So that may have been why. It's a little bit unclear whether that also applies to the Fell Beings Legion.
It doesn't,
because it is. You sure? Because it is in his rules.
The reason why it's in the Legendary Legion rules is that every hero can lead any troop in the Legion unless stated otherwise. So a good example of this is Defenders of Helm's Deep. any hero can lead elves. But if you look at the Men of the West Legendary Legion, only specific heroes can lead specific warriors.
Yeah, that's a little different though, because in Razgush's actual profile, War Leader of the North special rule specifically says Razgush may only include Orc Warriors, Warg Riders, Giant Spiders, Smoke Spiders, Fellwalks, and Bat Swarms in his warband. So,
but I
that may be
believe
why.
the Legendary Legion rules do state that.
Before we go too off topic,
Well, I mean, that may it doesn't really matter, obviously, but like the genuine debate whether or not.
look at that Spider Queen at 400 points. How on earth? How do you deal with that? I guess you take 40 late towners and shoot it to death.
Why does she have 6 Broodlings?
Yeah, I did a boo-boo and I accidentally copied and pasted the Spider Queen twice.
I thought you were going for like a cool edit gotcha moment. Like
this is a 22 model army that has 5 spearmen, so it's not exactly going to hold up well to any kind of battle line. Like those Bjornings are going to absolutely ruin this potentially. If the Spider Queen doesn't win a combat, the rolls are 3 high, she's just going to get mullered. Yeah, so she's not invincible. It's just
but if the bat
wins,
makes a courage check, you're pretty Gucci there against the bear.
Yeah, I'm not saying against the bear. I'm saying against Bjornings. She charges 2 Bjornings. That's a good way to get them dead. But at the same time, if you roll a 222 or something, which happens quite a lot with the Spider Queen, even with the banner, it might happen. Then they're just going to kill her straight up. So she's not, and if she gets tagged, it's even worse for her because 2 attacks is rubbish. So I'm not saying she's like. Basically, this list doesn't really have the tools to protect her in the way to make her work perfectly. Like it's going to go well for her probably because she's extremely powerful and very cheap, and there's a Bat Swarm in the list. But at the same time, like really the way to beat her is just hit her hard and hope she doesn't roll a 6, which is valid. Razgush isn't exactly that powerful either. He's quite expensive for what he actually brings, which is not a whole lot.
Cool. Let's have a look, see at second place when Stephen's finished being distracted.
Sorry, I just had my food given to me. We've got spicy Cajun fries.
You're eating on the podcast? What the hell? I would never do that.
I know.
This isn't the Gollum's Gamers.
Oh no!
I do
Terrible.
Also, you can't do it. Rules for me, not. Also, I mean, what's it?
1 second.
I'm going to talk now so that when he looks at the waveform and editing, he won't be able to see that there's a big blank gap that he needs to cut out.
I'm not going to cut that because this isn't a professional podcast. Second place was Andrew Kerr, who, of course, we've already seen. Andrew won the best painted, so we already know what his list is. It's the Bjornings.
Yeah, I'm embarrassed that he didn't spend that single point on getting one of these.
I know.
Bjornings.
No weapon swap.
Mace. Hand and a half mace. It's good, I swear.
Yeah. Additional bashing.
Genuinely not bad. But you
although, to be fair, whoever made the PowerPoint missed that it's not Grim Bayon. I think it might actually have been Bayon. So,
yeah. Do we think it's correct with this list to go no bows rather than taking 3?
He did have bows in the best painted picture, but on the army list on Longshanks, it just said 10 dudes. So
because it's a free upgrade, I think I'd probably have. To be honest, I think at 400, I don't really know. I think I'd probably have like 3, maybe 2. Grimbeorn also has a bow if you were using Grimbeorn, which we think he wasn't. But if you do, Bjorn can have a bow, but he has to pay 5 points for it. Actually, I think they got rid of that option. Actually, you used to be able to buy a bow for 5 points back in the day. But yeah, great bows are better than bows. Turns out.
Would you say they're greater than bows?
Yeah. To be honest, I think really this list, you're not really going to be. I mean, actually, you might win shooting wars against lists like the previous one with the trackers. Like a few great bows would probably cause that list trouble. You just continue shooting at the Spider Queen, force them to come to you. I don't think it's wrong. I don't think it's wrong to not take them either. It's just a personal preference.
Yeah, I think it's preference as well. It's very I always look at it and you see people take. Usually, it's 3 out of 10 is the proportion they take for Bjornings, which I guess is slightly below the third, but.
If you max out and go for 4, you suddenly only have 6 that are getting the +1, which is a bit you're hampering yourself a bit, but you also do want to have some shooting power. I think at 800, 6 bows is the sweet spot. I've seen that work pretty well because you have a few small little squadrons that are going to shoot out horses with annoying reliability. Anyway, yeah, it's good. It's a good list. Nothing much to say about it, really. 400 is the point where the double bear isn't really that viable.
You lose too hard on objectives, don't you?
Yeah, pretty
much. And with Bayonne having to charge, you can just get kited. So
you can, but I mean, like pretty much nothing at 400 points is going to reliably stop 2 bears. It's just winning games is a bit harder.
3 bears.
Yeah. The secret 400 point meta is playing 200 points up.
Yeah. Moving on to first place. Hey, it's our old friend Theoden. First place was Adam Wilkinson. Dave, do you want to run me through this list?
Sure. He's got Theoden as his leader, leading 4 Serpent Riders and 3 Raiders with War Spear and Bow. Then he's got Mouth of Sauron leading, on a horse, leading a battle line of 6 Morannons with Spear, no shields, backing up 6 Black Numenorians, and then he's got a single Morannon with shield. I mean, this is a really basic hammer and anvil list. Put some Black Numenorians down, put some Strength 4 Spears behind them, and then use the fact that he has 9 cavalry. And there's almost half his army. 22 models isn't great, but I mean, it's the joint most we've seen. I mean, no one here seems to have Lake Town or Goblin Town, which would probably cause problems for lists. Just depends what scenarios come up, I suppose. It's a decent list.
Do you think the 22 models is more beneficial than having all the Morannon orcs with shields? So remove 1 model.
I think in this list, this is fine.
Yeah.
I think I probably would drop one of the Serpent Riders for the shields and another guy.
Or a tracker or something.
Yeah, or something like that. But it doesn't. It's it's pure taste at that point. That's just a personal thing. I think D6 throughout your line helps, but it's not exactly a big line anyway. And I don't think I don't think you need 7 lancers. But yeah, I imagine the games are over fairly quickly with a list like this.
Yeah, you either die or you kill them.
You win hard or you lose hard, I would say.
Would you do you think the Mouth of Sauron is the correct choice at this points level?
I mean, I wouldn't take him, but I see the appeal. Bring his transfixes. He can pretty reliably do 3 or 4 transfixes. For things like a single bear list, they've got fate. They've got will and resistant to magic. But like, if you get even 1 transfix off, you're a gangbusters territory. He's an okay combat hero. Does like perfectly well against regular orcs or regular lines, even other Morannons and Black Numenorian type lines. He does pretty well into those. So yeah, he's fine. I don't like him that much. I think he's meh, but I see why he's a multi-purpose hero. And a lot of the time, you might not need to use his magic too much. You can just use him as a middle-level combat hero.
Yeah, the threat of the magic can be quite useful, I suppose, as well.
It just helps nullify if your opponent has one big target lists. It gives you something you can do to them, which isn't just throw Theoden and strike.
Absolutely. Right. Moving on to the other. Well, actually, I think there were 4 events last weekend. One of the other events of the last weekend, it was a big summer day out. Oh, sorry, that's not very big. It was Bristol, obviously, because it's Bristol Independent Gaming. TO was James Harding, or Jim, as he's collectively known locally. 500 points, 4 games. Most sporting was Luke Davies. And the best painted was George Harold. Now, this was a pretty no-frills tournament. It was your standard kind of Saturday, get a bunch of games in, get a bunch of killing done, roll some dice, have a good time event.
Yeah, exactly. 500 points, 4 games, randomly generated, an hour 50 time limit.
Yeah. So just a quick look at George Harold, continuing the trend of everyone who plays Bayonings being a hobbyist. We have some lovely Bayonings.
Yeah, they were good. They were nice. He had Grim Bjorn and 15 Bjornings, which is actually pretty hardcore at 500 points. Like, that's a lot of smash in there.
The models look, the painting is really, really clean. You can see like it just looks really neat. It's really, really impressive.
Yeah, I like the snow on the bases as well. I think he did a good job making them feel a bit like snow melt. I've had a go at a similar effect before. I think he's nailed it here, to be honest. Like just melting snow in the spring, which is appropriate for what they're wearing. They do look like they're mostly wearing like furs and stuff. Although not all of them, to be fair. But
do we think we've
dressed for the cold?
we've finally established that Beornings are a hobbyist army now? Because
I
we
think
keep
they always
seeing
were, because they are an entirely Forge World army. Like this is certainly the hobbyist version. It's like, hey, you've not taken Bjorn, you've not taken the one.
Not taking the ugly bear.
Really nice, yeah. I don't think it's that bad. It's just not as like a lot of people think it's crap. I don't think it's not that bad. It looks like a gritty bear, but it doesn't look as good as the Grimbjorn bear.
There's some very cool. I know some. There's an Italian player, Alessandro, or whether he was just borrowing it at the Nations Cup, has a really cool like Beorn slapping the water and a fish is like coming out with it. Some cool water effects. So there are some cool things you can do with a Beorn model.
Oh yeah.
I suppose when you've got a smaller model army like the Beornings, it does let you invest a bunch more time into each one and make them feel much more unique.
Exactly.
Which is
I mean,
obviously what we've got here as well. So shout out George. He also, I think he came fourth, or at least he lost his last game, which apparently he has a curse of. So we had a little chat to him about that, which was quite funny.
I think it was
but yeah,
fifth in the end.
Fair enough. Moving on to third place, new meta. John, run me through this list.
It's another Fell Beings of Mirkwood list. So we've got Brazgush, leader of the North, leading 4 orcs with shield, 4 with spear, 1 with banner, 3 trackers, 1 giant warg, 1 fell warg, and then the Spider Queen leading 5 orcs with shield, 5 with spear, 3 trackers, a bat swarm, and a fell warg. And rounding it out, we've got an orc drummer.
Yeah, good list. Sort of all round. This is the points level where Fell Beings, in my opinion, actually makes sense. I think 600 and below, when you can really maximize the fact that you are leading troops with the Spider Queen, that's when it makes a lot of sense. So my personal sort of take on this list is I would drop a shield, a spear, and take 2 additional trackers, and then I drop a Felwarg and I turn that Orc Drummer into a captain. Because you essentially get the same effect, which is marching, but the captain is better at everything. It gives you 2 additional might that you can keep safe. And obviously, yeah, you get a slightly less line, but you get an extra 2 bows. You lose a model overall, but like 33 down to 32 doesn't change anything in terms of breakpoint, doesn't change anything in terms of power. If anything, it makes you stronger because you've got an orc captain rather than a drummer, and they're much stronger. You don't have to keep your drummer safe in things like fog of war and things. But I mean, it works well. I mean, he was using the drummer as an individual drop because his warbands are full. I mean, it makes sense. That's quite great. I don't think the Giant Spider does anything for a list like this, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I was about to say.
In fact,
I'm a bit apprehensive about them.
For turning, actually, that's a good point. Drop that. You can leave this list exactly as it is. Drop that and turn the drummer into a mounted captain with no shield.
And you keep the same breakpoint as well.
You keep the same breakpoint, and that is an immediate upgrade for me.
Yeah, no, those mounted orc captains for 50 points, they can do so much work.
Honestly, orc captains, when the new edition came out, almost every basic captain went up by 5 points, but for whatever reason, the orc captain didn't. And you can really feel it when you look at those points. Like them and the goblin captains are just such better value than a lot of the other ones.
One thing I would say, in a lot of the lists that I've seen, people used to take double bat at lower points, and I have seen quite a bit of it. It's nice to see people aren't falling into that trap at the moment, because I think if you've got 2 bats at this points level, you're losing so many points to a model that's literally just there to help the Spider Queen out. Really,
you pretty much. I mean, the bat swarms are great. Like I found I have super good value in making, especially with the small battle line. Bat swarms peeling off 2 spear supports each actually can immediately win you a line fight, especially with lists this small. I don't think it's a bad idea at all. I do think, like that's what I do with Assault on Loth all the time. I do think that if you do that, you pretty much have to not take a banner to make the numbers worth it. Or you drop the drummer, which is a valid choice as well, like the drummer. Although I do like the drummer / the potential captain we talked about. So for me, I think drop the giant spider for the. I see the value of the giant spider, but with the broodlings and you just don't need it. I don't think, and it doesn't actually provide a whole lot of hitting power. Like an orc captain on Warg would provide the same hitting power, but also be way more flexible. So yeah, that's my take. I like the list though. I played against Stewie at this event. Spoilers, I was there, and yeah, I see the appeal of this. He did very well with it. Got 3 massive wins.
Yeah. So moving on, second place was Mr. David Bugle. With a Halls of Thranduil Survivors of Lake Town list, which we've actually
Sometimes
seen
good
a lot
play.
and discussed a lot of recently. The Thranduil with a cheapo captain. So someone run me through this one.
So he's got his leader is Thranduil with elven swords, additional swords, and Circle of Kings. Importantly, he has no armor.
Oh,
Which
sorry,
is
he doesn't have any armor.
choice.
1 second.
He doesn't have
There we
any
go.
armor. Yeah, there you go. He's got 11 Mirkwood Elves with shield, 1 Mirkwood Elf with banner and glaive, 1 cavalry also with no shield, sentinel, 4 Mirkwood Elves with bow. Then he's got a Lake Town Militia captain, 10 Lake Town Militia with spear, 2 with bow and spear. Now, this is an interesting list for a few reasons, but I'm mostly drawn to the fact that he's not maxed his bows out, and he's not got armor on Thranduil. Like
He's really skimped on the points.
He really has, and I don't really see the value in that. Like he's gone from 30 up to 32. 32 isn't massive, but this is a fairly it's a reasonably elite army, and obviously he's done well with it. But I think I don't think it would be too difficult to get in max bows in this list. Getting the armor on Thranduil might be a little more challenging, but you'd only have to drop 1 model. I was like, yeah, that loses you a break point, but you get 3 extra shots. I mean, you could even take the bow on Thranduil himself if you could find the points. If you drop 1 elf with shield, you suddenly can take a bow. And you can have 1 more elf with bow. Actually, how many does he have? Yeah, no, he's got maximal bands. 1 more elf with bow, and then get all the bows on the Lake Town, and then you can pump it up as much as you can. You can take a couple more glaives, which are useful to have. You can take a shield on that cavalry. You could take. You probably wouldn't be able to afford the armor on Thranduil because it's 10 points, but you could take the bow on Thranduil, which would allow you to have that extra shooting power to outshoot other lists. I don't know.
Do you think Dave, at low points, kind of maxing out bows and having that volume of shooting is more or less important than at higher points?
Probably less important, just because the actual amount of shooting you'll get is going to pale in comparison to other lists that get heavy shooting. I do like the maxing of the shields. I think the no armor is an interesting choice. I do think 32 isn't a very big army, no matter how you slice it. But
did you see the list itself, as in the army on the table? Because
yeah, I did. Yeah.
Did he have the yoga Thranduil pose?
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe he just wanted to use that model.
No, he was saying it was for points reasons.
Oh,
He'd have used that model even if he had armor.
Yoga Thranduil is the optimal Thranduil.
I mean,
well,
technically he's the shortest, smallest. So yeah, he is.
Also, his balls literally brush the floor. So
yeah, well, he's showing off how functional his knees are, which I'm highly jealous of.
He didn't have to pay £10,000 for surgery, clearly. So
no, he didn't. The what I say about this list is he had. I watched the conclusion to several of his games, and he had some absolute squeakers. His last 3 games, so he won all 4 games, but they were all close, apart from his first one, which was pretty comfortable. His second, third, and fourth games were all sweaty, close games. So he didn't have a very chilled out day. Not like me. Spoilers. His day was extremely squeaky all the way to the wire. Yeah, I think he played double Great Beasts in game 2.
Ooh.
And then game 3, he played Rivendell Elves that absolutely ruined him in combat. The only way he won was because he managed to, I think it was a single Lake Town Militia, beat a charging Riv Knight and another Elf away because it was capture control. He rolled a defended an objective. And I think if he'd lost and died there, the whole thing would have flipped. Also, one of his guys tanked 3 guys on a different objective contesting it. So it was like, literally last second luck from a couple of rando Lake Towners saved his ass. And then in the final game, it was right down to the wire against the Bjornings of George's Bjornings. So it was like I think he
So
won
what-
all 3 of those games by 1 VP. So yeah, he was squeaking it.
So what you're saying is that this Bugle guy isn't actually particularly good at the game. He's just
David
very lucky.
Conley, and he's good at the game. He's just also
Yeah, he was on
squeaky.
Team England 1, Stephen. That means he's
He
better
was
than
on
us.
Team England 1, yeah.
He was on
is
Team England 1.
objectively better than you guys.
Yeah.
We're just the binges.
We are just the binges.
We're just a couple of dudes who like to support each other.
Yeah.
Actually, my favorite,
Shout out
my
Sean
favorite,
Rosato.
Yeah.
my favorite moment in the Great Beast game was in the final round. Elliot, it was Elliot Harry playing the Great Beast. He shot at Thranduil to try and kill him for the wounds, and I think he got 5 hits through in the way on Thranduil from one Great Beast.
God.
Which is pretty lucky. He shot 6 guys and hit 5 of them, and then all of them went through in the way. And it was like suddenly Thranduil was no armor, feeling like, D4 by the way. He did take a wound, but he still won by. He was destroy the supplies, and he won by 1 victory point because Thranduil took a wound, but also didn't die, and he killed Elliot's leader and had a banner, which was the difference maker.
Take your banners, people. For those of you wondering where I was at the event, let's move on to first place. It wasn't me. I wasn't at the event because I had other plans, unfortunately. Big is obviously I love Big. But yeah, this was the mysterious package I gave Dave on Thursday night. Dave, run me through the list.
It's Theoden, King of Rohan, with armored horse, shield, and heavy armor, leading 2 Rohan Royal Guard on horse. Then we've got Dernhelm with throwing spears, because there was 5 points left over. Aemir, armored horse and shield. Captain Rohan with horse, and then Gambling Captain Rohan with horse and the Royal Standard. So this is Rise of Theoden, my first time ever using it, and I have 8 models. By the way, basically I had a choice. I can either give Dernhelm or Aemir throwing spears, or I could give the captain some gear, but I wanted to keep him cheap. I decided on Dernhelm because theoretically, Dernhelm can spend a might point off of Merry for throwing spear shenanigans without actually spending a might. In the end, it never actually happened.
It's a very important step in the Riders of Theoden process, is realizing that the Dernhelm throwing spears are so valuable because of that precise interaction.
Yeah. Pretty much the only buyable throwing spear I would ever bother with on the heroes. On the troops, sure, 2 points is different though, because 5 points is a lot. If you're not talking about Elfhelm, who comes with his anyway. Although I personally don't want to use Elfhelm in Riders of Theoden, because for me, I think the best part of the army is the Strike 5 on the heroes, and Elfhelm doesn't get that. Neither does Gambling, but Gambling brings infinity might, so he can be let off with a warning.
Oh, apologies.
So yeah, I mean, I won all 4 of my games, and I won all of them inside of about an hour, which is why I was able and available to watch all of Clubby's games unfold in the stress, because I'd finished all of my games by charging and smashing, and calling death, and all that good stuff.
I was getting regular updates.
Give us a death call, Dave.
Death. That's how real players say it.
Yeah. I was getting regular updates from Dave because I was really like, oh, Dave's taking a nice fun army. Dave will have a great time at this event. And then Dave was like, oh yeah, just won it, mate. And I'm like, bruh. What I would say is I think Aemir, I'm sure he performed very well for you. I think Aemir at this points level, you could be better off taking Dalewine and a captain.
People say that, but I actually really liked having the 3 Fate D7 like 3 attacks basic hero, because the way I was moving up the board meant if I was worried about getting flanked, I could have Dernhelm on one side and Aemir on the other. So anytime I got charged, I would always have a 3 attack hero to sort of repel borders, as it were. So my final game I played with Dewey to the death, and he'd put his whole army in a forest, and I was like, oh boy, here we go. So I sort of was like, well, I could just stay out of range of his trackers and not play the game. And I thought, nah, screw it. I'm gonna walk up and try and throw spears at some trackers from Dernhelm. And then basically one time when I won priority, we were edging on ranges. He drummed. I moved forward into throwing spear range. He then jumped out of the bush at me, as I was sort of hoping he would. And then we was like, well, here comes the roll off. He won the roll off, but because the only guy he could jump on was Aemir, he couldn't pin my back guys. Well, he could have done if he'd remembered to use his broodlings, but he's quite inexperienced with the Spider Queen, so he forgot to do that, which is handy for me because it meant I got to get to do some counter charges. So he had to win the move roll off and then the combat roll off, so he could do his hurl with his Spider Queen. But in doing so, he dismounted my Aemir and then didn't hurl him far enough to hit the stuff he was trying to hit. He didn't hit Dernhelm, importantly, but he did prone his own leader, which was a bit of a mistake, I think. Yeah, it was basically having Aemir gave me a real chance to pull that off, because if I'd gone first for my heroic combat, I would have peeled off his Bat Swarm, which would have meant that actually my striking Aemir has a pretty good chance to just smack the Spider Queen, especially with 3 might in his pocket. He could actually kill her relatively. Like, it's not that unlikely that he could just roll well enough to kill her outright. And in the end, he used all of his might on the first 2 turns, and then I still had like 8 and Gamling, and I was like, ugh, that's not what you want with a list like this. So yeah, pretty comfortably killed the Spider Queen. Pretty comfortably killed Razgoosh. Yeah, so it's a fun list. Really, really good fun. I think, as I said, I think the longest any of my games took was about 55 minutes, including deployment, because it goes burr. It's a great list. Lots of fun.
As Iron von Sheehan would say, who is of course the godfather of Riders of Theoden. Praise be to Ivan. I'm here for a good time, not a long time.
Well, you can have both. Well,
no, you can't. 55-minute game, brother. 55-minute game.
I only have 8 models. You just put them down the table. But it was quite a few where I was just like, oh, I won the fight again. Kill them. Even in my first game, when my heroes rolled extremely badly, I had to have one of those death calls where you spend like 2 might on every hero, but it's still worth it.
Yeah, there's a picture that Ivan shared with me. He was like, here's my opponent's army at the start of the move phase, and here's where my opponent's army used to be at the end of the fight phase, because death, you just so
with the hero heavy. My second game was against Ruffians. He had 80 models, so literally 10 times my models. He had 28 bows, I think it was.
Moral of the story, kiddies, is try Riders of Theoden. It's a great drug.
It's good fun. Yeah.
It's
a gateway drug to all hero armies, I think.
But anyway, as John always says, on to everyone's favourite part of the podcast, the comments.
No stats?
Oh, no stats. I haven't.
Oh, no.
What the heck?
We're slacking.
There's no updated. Maybe next week.
Mordor's still good. Minister only does well at 90s.
Yes. Rory Duckett 2665 says, really enjoyed your Nations Cup coverage. Awesome to have James on. Looking forward to meeting you all at the Wolf Slayer at the end of the month in my first GBH 100. Bring on the spoon. I'm glad you enjoyed the Nations Cup coverage. It was really nice to have Jakob on. I actually listened to the podcast even when I wasn't on it, and I thought he was great. So shout out Jakob. Hopefully we'll have him on again. Come say hi at the Wolf Slayer. Just come say hi.
Be there, I think.
The last time someone was like, I'm also going to be at this event you're at. And I was like, hey, come say hi. And then they didn't. I was like, oh. Made me sad.
Somebody did bring Denby snacks, though.
Oh, yeah.
That was...
To be fair, Stuart McLean, Giga fan.
Yeah.
Absolute Giga Chad. Love him.
Crisps.
It's
good. But definitely come say hi.
So, yeah, come say hi, Rory. I hope you don't get the spoon. I hope you win at least 3 games. That would be really cool. Comment below, let us know what you're taking, and we'll critique your list if you like. David Jackson 39, because the other 38 David Jacksons were taken, says big fan of Jakob on the pod. Definitely get him back on. With 8 thumbs up, so including the comment above, there's at least let's say 10 people who preferred having Jakob on than me. So
that's not a shock.
Awkward.
And then if we get another top player instead of me, we can actually be a proper competitive podcast.
Yeah, let's get like Ali King or someone. Oh no, sorry, someone good.
Diggity.
Yeah, we will get Jakob back on. I also, as I say, I listened and I thought he did a really good job.
Yeah.
So yeah, Smoothbrush 4722 says awesome armies. I believe this is referring to the best painted Nations Cup stuff. They were awesome armies. They were absolutely gorgeous, especially
England,
in person.
Quintline, sweet baby.
Yeah. There was a lot of armies that didn't get featured on the didn't get podium or awards, but they were all really, really gorgeous. It's lovely to see everyone across the world bringing their collective talents together. So yeah,
England is officially the hobbyist nation.
Yeah, the hobbyist nation that is England. Carson Howard 9489 says, I'd have a hard time rushing to paint models. I ask myself when painting the model, would I be satisfied playing with them myself? And if I say no, I keep working. Thank you for your input. I'll keep it in mind for future jobs. Nationals sound like it was a really great time. Hope to attend one day. I believe this is in reference to the commission discussion we were previously having. Yeah, I think it's just important to make sure you value your own time.
Well, it's like about how much you charge for them as well.
Yeah.
How that started was talking about the price one should charge for paying, even as someone who doesn't maybe think that they're like the greatest painter. If you're being commissioned to paint for someone, you still have to give yourself a fair price. I think that's difficult to do though, because most people have a tendency to undervalue their own time regarding hobby costs.
Yeah, true. Carson, I want to say you're American. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, I think he is.
I got that impression.
I think he's mentioned it before. There was actually a US and a Team Canada who both came over. So maybe hit them up, hit up your representative to try and come along next year. Maybe get even more people. Get Canada 2 and America 2.
If you find the
Team
Facebook
North
group, the
America.
Nations Cup Facebook group, that should have a list somewhere in it of all the ambassadors. So they're the person to contact from your nation to get involved.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Duncan Peacock 2177, who for context was like, Dave, critique my list. I want a GBHL 90.
And then we skip the tournament.
And then we skip the tournament to cover the Nations Cup.
Too much Nations Cup coverage, mate.
Too much Nations Cup.
Tear them apart, Dave.
Dave, run through the list. And
what have we got here? This is a classic throwing axe list. Durin, Dwarf King. Ooh, two-handed axe. That's your first mistake. Don't bother with that. Again, in the King's Champion group, we've got 12 Dwarf Rangers with longbow, which is just a bow, and throwing axes. I like the double purchase, making sure to have the throwing axes on the Dwarf Rangers. That's good. Is that max bows? I don't think it is. I think you could have a couple more. How many is that? That's 8.
12 bows.
36. Oh no, that is max bows.
Yeah.
Forgive me. Maxed out bows, good. Although if you, I suppose, dropping the shield, what else are you going to get other than some Kazagard, which, by the way, would be not a bad idea. Dwarf Warriors with shield, obviously being able to shield is a nice option for non-lethal. It's got plenty of throwing axes. All of his Iron Guard have got weapon swaps, which is good because it's axes on the model. The fact that they're declared as throwing axes and definitely not axes you can fight with is kind of pathetic, but that's a bit of beef that goes back in the FAQ about 6 or 7 years. So it's enshrined in law now. But yeah, I like that because you don't even have to convert them; they just have axes. For me, all I would say is maybe ditch the 200 axe on the king and grab a couple of Kazagard for auto courage pass.
Do you think the 12 points
really see
the 12 points on the Iron Guard for axes is good?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
So to go from strength 4 to strength 5.
That's a big step.
Yeah,
it's useful.
Okay.
But I agree with him in this though, in that if you're going to do it, you have to do it with all of them, because there's just no way to feasibly say, oh, these guys have axes and these ones don't. They all look the same because all of the models have axes. They're just throwing axes.
So you haven't actually critiqued his list that much. You've said nice things, Dave.
Critiquing can involve saying nice things. The other thing is, this is a Khazad Doom list, so it's a flawed concept from the start.
Yeah.
Because
there we go.
Very good.
That's what the people want.
Like. If we're talking actually in the context of Khazad Doom, I quite like this. I've always liked the Iron Guard spam version of the list. It would obviously be a better list if it was like Iron Guard backed up by some spearmen of some sort.
Yeah, Iron Guard backed up with Elven Spears.
I mean, that's always
kiss. Yeah,
it cooks. But if you're talking about pure Kingdom of Khazad Doom, I quite like this. I also think that another really good option is essentially this, but you have Balin and Gimli instead of Durin and the Dwarf King. It's cheaper, and is it cheaper? Similar cost. You can get more models, and realistically, Durin isn't the point of this list. But at the same time, like Durin's fine.
Yeah, Durin's good fun.
He's all right. He's pretty hard to kill. He's D9. He's got a +6 save. He's got he's like mini Lord of the West, but not as good. He can do a reroll priority. Like, he's good. He's got a Warhorn built in, which is great when you've got an absolute tank of a model that has a Warhorn in it. It means you can't get taken away from you. Yeah, it's a fine list.
Also, importantly, still defense 9 if you shatter his mithril heavy.
Oh
dwarf
yeah,
armor.
yeah, exactly.
I would also
it's
say
just
there is.
mithril armor.
I can see a way he could save 5 points if he dropped the Dwarf King to Mardin.
Or just
If you haven't seen Elliot's wonderful video on Mardin, please go check it out. Hopefully, I'll remember to put a clip here.
Yeah, I mean,
but it's genuinely the best thing we've ever made.
Conceptually, the funny thing about Mardin is you have him. He's like, oh, he's got Swarm Protector Durin, and it's like, yeah, but Dwarf King and Durin are Courage 7 with 2 will. It's like, it's just better. Also, he has Heroic Resolve, which is actually low key decent. Yeah, don't take Mardin. I also would say don't take the 200 Axe, but at the same time, I don't see anything obvious you can take instead of it. So, yeah. So let's.
You could take
I
half
give
a
this
dwarf.
a. Yeah, take some dwarf legs to standard objectives. So I would rate this as an 8 out of 10 as a Kingdom of Khazad-dûm list, and in terms of a list overall at 800 points, probably like a 5 or a 6 out of 10. No, it's not that. This is pretty close to as good as you can get with Kingdom of Khazad-dûm, I think, in terms of pure lists.
Moving on to the next section of comments, if I can click in the right place. If I can click, there we go. Alexander Spall 3 says someone has to explain the alliance matrix for those English. Yeah, I was also listening to the podcast and I messaged John being like, wait, was this list illegal? I was like, I'm pretty sure that Iron Hills and Survivors and Thranduil are green. And then it was clarified later.
James Starch also got the matrix wrong.
Yeah, I would say if I was on the podcast, I would have corrected that almost immediately.
I mean, Alex is German, I think. I can't recall if he was presumably at the Nations Cup.
And maybe it was Alex's list.
they do love their matrices, so you know.
No, he's right. Matrices. Ugh, disgusting.
I was waiting for that. Matrices. David Martin 9839, and this is a lovely question for Dave. Continuing to ask new player tactical questions. Heroic March is really well rated by yourselves. Any advice on when in particular I should be looking to march? Before Dave chips in, I'm going to say something that makes me sound smart, because Dave always says the things that I'm about to say, and therefore I don't get to look smart. If you're doing something that is recon or divide and conquer, you need to get up the board. That is a really good point to have march. If you get to the middle first in divide and conquer, you're already winning the first half of the battle. Same with recon. If you're fighting at the 36-inch mark rather than the 24-inch mark, you're doing well. Dave, why is Heroic March good?
I think the exact opposite of what Stephen just said. No, I think it allows you to reposition things. Certain boards, I mean, like, this depends on the board a lot, scenario a lot as well, but particularly certain areas of the board are like hugely advantageous to get there first. Also, sometimes when you're just out of range for your opponent to charge you, marching means that, especially if they're the kind of enemy who doesn't necessarily want to have a fist fight with you, like a heavily shooting army, if you march, they have a rough idea what you're going to do, but they don't actually know. So if you're like about 8 inches away from their line and you march and they might move back 3 inches, they might be like, okay, and then you can also swing around. You can use those extra inches to redeploy your army slightly. You can say like, all right, rather than going straight at the line where I appear to be going, I can wheel round and attack your flank instead. That works better if you have mounted marchers, because the actual move you get is extreme. But you can say like, whoa, I'm attacking you, and then psych, I'm going to hit your other flank instead.
If you want to check out a good bat rep example, there's a bat rep where I'm playing Josh, one of the more recent ones. I'm playing Riders of Theoden versus his Isengard. Again, hopefully I'll link it somewhere. Where there is a building, and I call a march after I've lost priority with Gamling. And because everything's mounted, I can then move everything 15 inches completely around the other side of the building and get a really good flanking angle where he doesn't have heroes to counter a heroic move next turn. It's like, it's beautiful chef's kiss moment. It's similar to using a drum, like Dave said, repositioning across the board, especially when you don't have priority, so you can move second. Really powerful, and you can take advantage of. Sometimes, if it's a really good player, they'll predict the fact that you could march aggressively or march to a specific spot. but some newer players or even, competent players will forget that when you march, you could just go whoop all the way over here and just totally reposition.
People sometimes focus on what they think you're going to do. They forget what you could do something different as well.
Yeah.
Marching just gives you a lot of flexibility because actually, if you declare march, you can still charge with things. You can still move, split up. You can do all sorts. All you've declared is that hero is not charging and is going to go extra inches. You don't actually have to move any of your models with it. So
people always forget that.
Remember, do your order correctly. You can do all sorts of unexpected things with it.
Especially with like Riders of Theoden. If people then go, okay, cool, I'll just move everything in charge range. You go, okay.
Well, I mean, that would be someone being dumb, to be fair.
That would be very
it
silly.
does happen. It does happen.
But then you just go, okay, only gambling isn't charging. Big deal. Like
gambling didn't need to charge anyway. He's an idiot with a banner.
So yeah, March has got variety of uses.
Gambling even has a banner in the movies. I think he's just a captain. So he specifically says follow the king's banner down the middle, which implies he's not holding it. So there you go. Anyway, that's my little gambling lore. Also, all of the Theoden models, he's holding his sword in his left hand, but in the movies, he holds it in his right hand. Fuck if I know why that is, but it's really consistent. Every model Theoden has it in his left hand, and in the movies, he's just used it in his right hand. I have no idea how that even happened.
I feel like there's some piece of lore there regarding like Bernard Hill. Theoden canonically is left-handed, but then Bernard Hill is like, actually, I want to be right. I can only wield right-handed, or something.
Fair enough. Well, that would make sense.
If you do know, comment below.
Yeah, do let us know because actually, that's something that left-handed models is a real like obsession of mine. Actually, because there's not very many official models that are like holding a sword and such in their left hand. Yeah. Shout out Grishnak, main man. Also, orc trackers.
Yeah,
left-handed.
There's some good knowledge there. Name 3 left-handed models.
Well, because all the orc trackers are holding their bows in their right hands, which, if you've never held a bow, makes sense probably. But if you think about actually firing one, you're like, oh yeah, that's actually the other way around.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's
John. Would you like to read out the next comment?
Yeah. So our next comment is from superfan Dirk, Free Run DJs. Would love to meet you guys. I won't be at Ardacon, however. I will be at the Northern Ireland Open in July. You're also invited to come to my event in September. I think, unfortunately, I don't think any of us are going to Michael's event in July, so we'll miss you there.
I went last year. Yeah. Good event. But at that time, I'm spending so much money this year again. I just trying to chill with the flying to other events.
I'm at a wedding, unfortunately. Well, not unfortunately.
I hate planes, so
me and Stephen are getting married.
We are getting married. Shh! Don't tell Monica.
Surprise video on the pod.
Just Monica and Amy turn up, and it's me and you. I assume I'm wearing a dress because
Oh, we can both wear dresses. Don't worry about
that. Can I be maid of honor?
Of course. That means you have to marry one of us if the other one runs away. Dirk, where is your event in September? I don't actually know where you live. I would assume it's somewhere in the Netherlands.
Maybe like Belgium or something.
Yeah. Let's know. Belgish. You can't say that, mate. You can't say that. It's my job to cause diplomatic incidents with other nations. Come on.
Hey, we almost had that in the Nations Cup. We haven't actually told the police story.
Oh yeah.
We'll tell the police story. Ask me at an event about the police story. I'm not going to tell it on.
We did actually get we had the Belgian police call on us.
They were very nice about it.
They were really nice about it. You know what? Let's tell the story now. Because it means in the title I can write something clickbait like, we had the police called on us, question mark. We parked in the wrong spot, which was quite clearly designated as a no parking zone because it had been booked out by some Belgian movers.
It could have been designated more clearly. In the clear light of day, I'll give you that. When we're all awake and alert, it looked relatively clear. But I think it could have been clearer. But also,
at 11 o'clock at night when we were all tired and there was loads of other cars parked there.
Yeah, we've had 14-hour gaming days.
We turned up,
and then we come down in the morning.
Yeah,
there's all the other cars on the street are moved. There's a bunch of angry removal people.
I've been there for like an hour and a half, an hour and 45 minutes, and the police were like, "Are you the silly English people who parked here?" And we were like, yeah. They're like, there is going to be a fine for parking here. You shouldn't have parked here. Here are the signs. There's also going to be a fine for being towed. Yada, yada, yada. The police, I have to say, were lovely. We told them why we were there, and they were immediately like, "Oh, it's not a stag do." Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Shout
we
out
just
to Belgian police.
yeah.
Big fans.
If I had
They love the
either of
podcast, I'm told.
yeah, they were actually listening to it. That's why they let us off.
Yeah.
Yeah. We did actually get away from them. No speeding involved. They just said, "Oh, you know what? It's fine. We'll send the fine to John's address," and the towing company weren't going to come out. So yeah.
Yeah, we basically finessed it after hanging around for 45 minutes. They basically decided they had better things to do, and the tow truck said they weren't coming. So we finessed that, and then they said they probably
Better
weren't
lucky than good.
Because
well, don't say that, Dave. Don't say that, because then it will become a whole international incident.
Yeah,
it's too late. It already is. Anyway,
more importantly, I told them who I was,
Belgium.
and they said, "Oh, you're an influencer, are you?
Denby,
you can go then." I did not happen. 4 Farthings. Oh, sorry, go on.
Oh, I was just going to read out the next comment.
4 Farthings Gaming said, John, what did he say?
He said, "I'm going to a very casual 700-point tournament in July. I'm taking Blackgate Opens. Beefy Chiefy, Troll Chief with Hammer Swap, Troll Chief with Hammer Swap, Mordor Troll Jam."
Did you also pull up the YouTube comments?
Yes. I love this list for Farthings Gaming, and it's a list I actually want to make because I want to do it as technically not the Blackgate Opens. I want to do it as the Minas Tirith Gate Opens.
Yeah.
Where all the trolls barge
through. You want the trolls coming through, with the hammers
smashed in, make a sick display board. So I really like this list.
Doesn't,
you get full.
This doesn't benefit from the main rule of the Blackgate Opens, but it does get you the Turbo Chief, which is pretty cool. Fearless and extra stats is always good. And if you want to run all Mordor trolls, it's pretty much the best way to do it because you can get everything you need in the list.
Yeah.
And also, I think it's a cool list. You'll have a hard time winning games, but you'll probably have a good time with it.
You're an absolute giga Chad for taking this list.
Troll Chiefs aren't the easiest thing in the world to handle because they're fight 7 and they have strike and they have might.
Not when there's 4 of them.
Well, yeah, but so actually, for Lord of the Imps last year, Jakob, friend of the pod, was drawn against Chris Lewis first game on Sunday, which is Contest of Champions, but he was indisposed due to reasons of extreme alcohol and sleep. So Jakob last second had to play the ringer, and the ringer army was something similar to this. It was like meme Blackgate Opens. I think he had 3 troll chieftains, and then he had some orcs as well, but like 3 troll chieftains when you're using Azog and what's the list called? Pits of Dol Guldur. It's like actually kind of tough because it's like, well, you've got fight 7, but if Azog loses that fight, he is getting fucked immediately by the troll chiefs. So you have to be a bit careful, and you don't even have the fight value advantage. So actually, it's a little sketchy. Not no play at all, but I don't think that's going to win too many games. 1 out of 3 is a good goal.
Yeah.
Win Lords of Battle.
Cool guy Hennon says the British not even on the podium. How come?
We all slipped on trips on a bottle of water. Unfortunately,
I was going to say it's because we're not sweaty tryhards and we're just hobbyists.
No,
really.
we are. It was just all of the racism from those damn Continentals stopped us from getting on the podium, and also losing games that we shouldn't have lost. Shout out.
Yeah, there was a French person on the ref team, so they wouldn't let us fix it.
Skill issue.
Skill issue. Yeah,
here's a skill issue.
To be fair, we were really close in our games against Germany. We were to getting the win. We were really close in our game against Poland to getting a draw. We were close against Italy getting a draw.
If the bin juice had beaten you guys, would we have podiumed?
No, you'd have got 4th, I think.
Yeah,
you'd have done better than us, but you'd have to beat us to do that.
Yeah, that's the issue there.
We weren't about to let that happen.
No,
you weren't. That's only because of Wiggins.
Not only because of Wiggins.
Pat D119 says, interesting that the defenders of Helm's Deep list didn't include Haleth. Do you have any thoughts as to why that is?
Haleth is rubbish.
Yeah,
that's my feeling.
I guess to give a serious answer, if the way that they built those lists, they really tapped them for kind of shooting and or throwing weapon spam. And Haleth is good if you're trying to get in a fight with somebody, but if you're really trying to optimize purely for shooting and throwing weapon spam, Aleph doesn't really bring much to that.
That list shouldn't be getting into straight fights, really, not without softening its opponent up sufficiently first. And fight 5 isn't even that helpful because you have elves with spears anyway.
Yeah.
You need fight 6. It's like, okay, you've got Legolas and Haldir in the list that Poland had. Like, Halith just doesn't add anything to that list other than being a 30-point model that is vulnerable in. He does have a bow, so he doesn't. He's not even like obviously worse than Eldor in that way. But yeah, he doesn't. For me, he doesn't add anything to that list, especially if they don't have Gamling.
Yeah.
Did the Polish list have Gamling? I can't remember. I think it did.
Let's go back and check the podcast to find out.
Yeah, Dave, why don't you listen to the Any Heroics podcast and you can find out.
Oh, that's because I'm on the Any Heroics podcast, Son. Now, I was in the middle of
it did have Gamling with raw standard.
It also has Eldor, doesn't it?
No, not the Polish one.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, doesn't it? Eldor in Haldir's.
Oh yeah, it does. Sorry, yeah. Haldir's
so
warband is just Eldor.
Eldor can serve as a sort of Aragorn light with Gamling, and he also has the reroll to wound bow. So, and he's 10 points cheaper than Haleth, and also Haleth doesn't add anything. And in order for Haleth to add something, he has to be in combat, which means that in certain scenarios you're just not going to be able to use him at all anyway. Yeah, I don't think Haleth is any good, really.
Yeah,
and
unless you want to have fight 7 King Elisar, which is too cracked.
King Elisar and Defenders of Helm's Deep.
But you can have Haleth outside of the Legion, and you can have Elisar. It does work.
Oh yeah, true.
It's just
so our final comment of the episode is from Claymore Lynx, who says, Lake Town being overrepresented. What do you know?
It's a good
I think
horde.
if you're European, Claymore, yeah, fair enough. But for us, dirty Englishmen, it was actually quite a bit of a... We don't see a huge amount of survivors of Lake Town, so it's a nice breath of fresh air.
We've mainly, I was going to say, Sam Grattan is the man when it comes to Battle of Five Armies. And yeah, big shout out, Sam.
Obviously, winning tournaments with it, which is the big difference.
Yeah, I mean, who is you?
Who is me?
What I would
say,
Dave,
you're good at the game.
We see that's an Armada reference, if anybody ever, Armada back in the day. No, cool. All right, moving on.
Making references to things. Be like, hey guys, who likes the same things as me? Make it in the comments below.
Who used to watch competitive Super Smash Brothers Melee back in 2013? Yeah? Whoa. No? Okay, right. The thing is, we have seen a lot of like Thranduils and Survivors, because obviously, as we've discussed, the little package you get where you get Might, you get 13 models for just over 100 points. Really good. I think maybe it hasn't quite clicked here yet. Obviously, the
other thing is we love our Green Alliances.
Yeah, we're Green Alliance purists, and Legendary Legion purists. So
just something about it.
Yeah. Although having said that, obviously it does fit into Battle of the Five Armies. So there is that. But yeah, obviously it's really good. You get a lot of numbers in a good list. You can then use it as spear supports for dwarves or elves or whatever. So yeah, no, it does make sense. We're just stupid Englishmen. And that's
foolish English.
Yeah, that's it. It's as simple as that.
I think Survivors and Army are both good because they have pretty tasty hoarding capabilities.
Yeah, and you can also ally in some nice tools or have some nice tools in the list. Yeah.
Army's good at lower points, and Survivors are good at larger points, basically. It's the version.
So, thank you for coming to listen or watch episode 23 of the podcast. Remember to comment, like, share, subscribe, support your hobby. Go check out 7 City Collectibles to buy your stuff, sell your stuff, and just go and hang out there. And until next time, stay chittery.
Chitter, chitter.
Chitter, chitter, farmer, chitter, chitter.
Chitter, 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 chitter.
Chitter, chitter. What?
Oh, what?
It's Waluigi hentai. Get your facts straight.